I'm suffering from a character crisis. I want to give every character a chance of becoming my main. This week, I learned my lesson about Byleth, and how a character we used to think was a low tier can actually be one of the scariest characters in the game. If you enjoy the video, consider crushing that like button and subscribe if you'd like to join me as I go through my character crisis. Byleth was the final character to be added with the first wave of DLC characters in Smash Ultimate. But even though Byleth is the protagonist of the best-selling Fire Emblem games to date, their arrival in Smash was met with disappointment. People were saying that Smash was now Super Fire Emblem Bros, and if I'm going to be honest, as someone who hasn't played Three Houses, their trailer was so boring. To add insult to injury, Byleth seemed like one of the worst DLC characters ever created for Smash. Their whole moveset seemed to be designed around big, slow, and powerful moves, which is a playstyle that has historically been awful in Smash. Even though Byleth had some of the best range out of any character in the game, it only took a few months for that title to be taken by another DLC character. Byleth was quickly disregarded as a bad character by most of the player base, and was ranked as a mid to low tier. That is until the best player in the world decided to give them a chance. A few weeks after Byleth's release, MKLeo picked them against Meister in Grand Finals of Frostbite 2020. Many saw it as a troll pick. Soon after Frostbite, lockdowns would begin, and MKLeo continued to play Byleth during the pandemic. His results dropped, and many people believed MKLeo would play Joker again after the pandemic. But MKLeo never stopped believing in Byleth.
Definitely not the pick right now for a tweak, but still commendable how far he got. Oh, that's ball. That might have been that was probably the best. Oh, did it again.
Absolutely did. Margo, don't let the nurse be your worst enemy. No way. No way. Oh my God.
And Leo steals main stage away. MKLeo went on his most dominant run in the history of the game, hardly placing below second for almost 2 years straight, and Byleth was a key part of his legacy. MKLeo single-handedly made Byleth look broken. Why did Byleth work so well for Leo? What did MKLeo see in Byleth that nobody else did? I've never put serious time into Byleth, so when my patrons chose Byleth for me, specifically female Byleth, I was ready to answer these questions for myself. And more, since one of my patrons actually put together a quiz about Byleth for me. Fail or you are not a gamer. Hey, you know, it's day one Byleth. If I fail this quiz, it's okay. What is Byleth's height? It's a good question. What is Byleth's birthday? How old is Byleth's father? What? Heavily implied to be over 300. What? How old is Byleth's mother? Why is her mother so young? How large is the official Byleth figurine? Can you do better than me? Byleth was the first character I mained after going through my random art, and I have to say, it was nice having to play only one character again. And then smash attacks. Again, that is... that is an interesting hitbox, I have to say. However, the first thing that stood out to me about Byleth was how slow she was. Byleth feels like one of the slowest characters I've played in this series so far. I don't know who else is faster, but hey, that's a dub. She really did feel like the definition of a low tier. Right. A slow character that hits really hard. We're gaming! But the thing about Byleth is that she hits really damn hard. We're gaming! Let's go, Amir. However, unlike Incineroar, Byleth actually has the range to justify her speed. Her disjointed moves actually allow her to approach safely in a way that someone like Incineroar can't. Something else I noticed while playing Byleth is that she really cares about spacing her moves. A well-spaced back air can absolutely annihilate your opponent, and her slow speed actually helps with lining these moves up. It's surprisingly hard to get in on Byleth because she has good frame data where it counts. And despite her slow speed, she has a really solid combo game. It was only day 1, but I was already beginning to understand why MKLeo loved this character so much. The next day, I decided to go to my local. It was only my day 2 Byleth, but it's important to know how good a character is at the start of the journey, to see if I actually improve. My first opponent was Looney, a player I fight in the redemption bracket every now and then, so I know that we're around the same level. When my Byleth gets hit by some Rob stuff I wasn't ready for. Game 2, I play much more confidently, and only lose 1 stock. But in Game 3, my inexperience with Byleth shows, and I immediately fall into the loser's bracket. Next time I lose, I'm out. My opponent in losers was Mint Blue, a player I was seeded to lose to. Except, going into the match, I wasn't that stressed about losing. If I went 0-2, I didn't care. It was still a new character. I then went on to confidently win Game 1. And in Game 2, I noticed something was different about the way Mint Blue was playing. He was scared. I felt like I knew everything he wanted to do at ledge before he did. I win, and move on in the bracket. I then had to fight the Beast, who was playing Kazuya Mishima. I used to be afraid of fighting Kazuya, but after maining him for my series, I learned a lot about what it takes to play against Kazuya. And just like I did against Mint Blue, I could sense desperation in the way the Beast was playing. And Byleth let me take advantage of that. At this point, I had now gone 2-2 with my day 2 Byleth, which is normally what I'd expect from a character I'd been maining for at least a week. But my next opponent was Stealthy, a hidden boss of Utah Smash. While he's not as active these days, back in Smash 4, Stealthy was a top 10 player in Utah. Today was one of the random days he decided to show up, and it was our turn to fight in the bracket. Fortunately, I had gotten in a lot of friendlies with Stealthy before the bracket, and even though it was my day 2 Byleth, I knew that anything was possible. I forced him to switch to Lucario in Game 2, and this is the first time I think I've ever fought a good Lucario in bracket. It's scary when they don't die. By Game 3, I feel more mentally prepared to fight Lucario, and it's extremely close. He reads a panic roll in, and I think it's over, but Byleth's recovery makes it back. However, Stealthy is nervous too, and I bait out a counter and hit him with the game-winning back air. Stealthy may not be as active anymore, but getting a win against him mattered a lot to me. I then had to fight Mint, a currently ranked PR player, and it didn't go nearly as well for me, but I was still happy with my run regardless. I placed 13th out of 54, which is much better than I do on average, and to do it with a day 2 character was kind of hard to believe. However, this set some really high expectations for myself. Could I do better in a week? On day 3, it's time for me to learn my lesson. I did VOD reviews of my games from the local, and I watched sets of MKLeo at his peak. Afterwards, I played against my viewers to try to implement what I had learned. Except, something was different about how I was playing that day. And I could not stop winning. Even when I had to fight viewers I struggled against, I would clutch up and win anyways. After winning 22 games in a row, I was finally defeated by Scuba Doo's Jigglypuff. No! Oh, well played, Scuba, well played. Although I beat him in the best of 3. In fact, that was the only game I dropped that day. Why is my Byleth so good? Yeah, we still got those. On day 4, I watched some videos on how to play as Byleth. Byleth can have a brutal punish game when mastered, but I was struggling to take advantage of her up B. Thanks to Iza and Smash University, I was able to get some new ideas on how to combo with Byleth. I spent some time in the training room before attempting an Elite Smash speedrun. The rules are simple. I'm trying to get 10 wins as fast as possible. I won my first 2 games, then lost my next 2. but had an awesome streak after that, carrying me to 8 wins at 42 minutes. Was a sub 50 possible?
But like, it's not that.
Except I ran into a problem.
Matt, bro. Oh crap. This guy's like number 15 in our region. He plays Ganon mostly, but he is no stranger to the low tiers.
It wasn't close. This killed my momentum, and before I knew it, my 8-2 record turned into an 8-5. I was able to clutch up at the end, but thanks to the time loss, my run ended a little over the hour. I unfortunately got sick for day 5. I was definitely not playing my best and lost more than usual. I may have been sick, but at least that didn't stop me from landing sick clips.
Man, this game's awesome.
Day 6, I was starting to feel a little better, and I wanted to test an idea for a tournament. I turned Hazards on, and we played on a ton of different stages that day. It may have taken a few months, but I did eventually host that tournament, which you can check out here. Byleth can do some funny things with Hazards on. However, the final day of playing Byleth was almost here. I was surprised by how much fun I was having playing as them. I went into Byleth with very few expectations. I remember trying them out when they first released and kind of disregarding them, only to see MKLeo dominate with them for years. I knew by now that they were good, but I had never given them a second chance. Now, Byleth has already proven herself to be one of my best characters, but I still had one more tournament left to go to. But you see, there's a reason I was playing as female Byleth. For Halloween last year, I left it up to my patrons to choose my character and my Halloween costume. Luigi won, so I went as Luigi. But the truth is that Luigi actually tied with Byleth. Female Byleth, to be specific. So I did what someone does when they have a main. I cosplayed as her.
It's time for me to learn my lesson. Give us a twirl? Absolutely. All right, very well. Okay. That was actually really fun.
I then got to play through classic mode.
I forgot that everyone comes and fights with you. That's actually incredible. And then I died.
I didn't have that much time left to stream, so I started an Elite Smash speedrun. The cosplay power-up was unfortunately not real.
Yeah, I knew I was fine. Still a little scary. That dash attack barely whiffed! Barely! Ugh. Humbly, can I please get one meow? Y'all are thirsty. No. My history is not forthcoming. Oh, I messed up my dash attack. No shot. You actually used... I got hit by every move in Ivy's kit, including neutral beat. Away. They just died? That's how it ended? Okay. GG's. If that is the case, then my record's 6-9. Nice.
However, I had to end stream early so I could make it to my local. Yes, I'm sure you can see where this is going. Despite it being the middle of July, I was ready to represent my main. Yeah, these videos take a long time to make, so if you've enjoyed it so far, I'd appreciate a like. And I didn't come all this way dressed up like this for nothing, so I made sure that I was on stream for my first set. I got to fight Dr. Chungus, a Ganondorf player. I win Game 1 pretty comfortably, although a really close call in Game 2 shakes me enough to lose the game. In Game 3, Dr. Chungus gets a huge lead, and I'm about to lose my round 1 against the worst character with potentially my best character while dressed like that. I can't let this happen. I immediately bring it back to even. It's scary close, and the pressure gets me to make stupid mistakes. However, I'm finally able to clutch it and win the set. This gives me the chance to then go up against the #1 player in Utah, and one of the best players in the world, Send. Even though he wasn't playing his main, it obviously still didn't go that well for me. But I did spike him at least. In Losers, I got to fight Feature Link, a DK main. Byleth technically has an infinite on DK, which means that this matchup should be really easy. Except that only works at 0%, and DK can kind of go monkey mode on us. I win game 1, but his aggressiveness beats me in game 2. In game 3, we trade stocks back and forth. Fortunately, I'm able to maintain my lead and win the set. I then got paired up against Snow the Yoshi. At first it's pretty even, with him taking the first stock. But I can't find the kill for the life of me, so he ends up taking game 1 without losing any stocks. But here at our local, Snow has a reputation. Game 2 Snow is unbeatable. And even though I play much cleaner in game 2, Snow keeps up his legend. I placed 25th at 64.
Final results.
Byleth really surprised me. On paper, they should be bad. They have all the defining characteristics of low tier. But what makes Byleth different from an actual low tier is that when you get a read, Byleth obliterates the opponent. More important than that, though, is how Byleth punishes common defensive habits. Shielding is very strong in Smash, but Byleth is one of very few characters that can consistently shield break without very much setup. Their terrifying shield pressure and long-range weapons makes it really hard to play against Byleth. Combine that with a deceptively complex combo game, insane recovery, and strong mix-ups in neutral, and you have a character that is actually really good. But man, she is slow. If Byleth were as fast as a normal character, he might be the best character in the game. But the thing about being a slower character is, it actually helped me. Byleth's slow speed helped me with my spacing, forced me to be patient, leading me to getting much better results than usual. Byleth also played off of one of my strengths, which is understanding what my opponents want to do. Having played as so many characters, whenever I fight someone I've already mained before, gives me a much better idea of where they like to be. And when you can space a back air that kills at 80 there, even better. Byleth taught me a lot about the way I play, and how a specific character can highlight those strengths. And even though I was willing to go as far as dressing up as Byleth, my character crisis is still far from over. If you want to help decide who my next character is, consider joining my Patreon, which gives you access to my private Discord, where you can vote for my next main. This year, I got to go to Supernova, one of the largest Smash tournaments of all time. What makes Supernova unique compared to other tournaments is how you can compete in all the Smash games there. So I decided I was going to enter every single Smash game, from Smash 64 to Ultimate. So I had to main one of the best Smash characters of all time. It's time for me to become a Fox main. Thank you to my patrons, with a special shout out to Bucket, Ruby Roo, and Scuba Doo for your continued support. And thank you, Billiam, for the quiz. It was something else. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on Tuesday.